here to help you with breeze, planting seeds and teaching skills. Teachers turn schoolyards to dreams. Who hates school gardens with ease?
How to design a school garden. You're listening to School Gardens with Ease podcast. I'm your host, Leila Mir-Iskandari, and this is episode 61. As you probably know, I am ramping up my School Gardens with Almost No Summer Maintenance class by adding a brand new module to it on the topic of designing a school garden. Now, a lot of the design aspects are already sprinkled inside the different modules of the School Gardens with Almost No Summer Maintenance class, but I thought it would be beneficial for the students of that class to have all of the design concepts also in one place inside a separate module so that they can easily refer to it when it comes, to designing their gardens. And as I am deep in the trenches of putting together this new module in this class, my brain is all into design these days. And I thought for this episode, I tell you all about how I design my school gardens. Of course, one episode of this podcast could never possibly contain all there is to it. For that, you'll have to go and take the class, the School Gardens with Almost No Summer Maintenance class. But I want to share enough here with you that it actually is helpful. So, shall we get started? As you may know, I am a permaculture designer and a huge fan of working with nature, and this concept is the main thing behind the easy success of my school gardens and those of my student teachers. Without these concepts, you would have a conventional school garden with all of its famous pitfalls. The gardens, that are difficult, that need a lot of effort with a lot of summer upkeep and, lots of weeds and pests and disease to deal with. And overall, a pain in everybody's behind, excuse the language, the volunteers, the teachers, the admins, everyone. The type of garden that looks ordinary or, dim and produces not much, even with all that hard work that goes into it. The permaculture and in general, the work with nature concepts that I share here are 100% what's behind the wowing, magical, producing, educational, and easy gardens that I have and my student teachers have created over the years. So get your pen and paper ready. Open your ears, and most importantly, open your mind too, because a lot of what I'm about to tell you go against the conventions and against the grain and might sound counterintuitive even. So that's it. Let's get started. Permaculture is a design process that looks at nature, the natural forests, and mimics it into creating a food forest that feeds humans. It has 3 ethics and 12 principles. The ethics are care for the earth, care for humans, and share the surplus. And I won't get into all of the 12 principles. You can just find those with a very simple Google search. But some of the ones that I love and are on top of mind for me all the time are, produce no waste, design from patterns to details, catch and store energy, use and value diversity, etc. But permaculture also has a series of very 3D tangible gardening techniques that help us put those principles and ethics into action and get very real results. Examples of those are hugelkultur, sheet mulching, key lining, guild planting, just to name a few. Now, if I were to put all of what I have learned from permaculture and from my over a decade of experience creating school gardens and all other kinds of gardens, actually. I'm also a landscape designer and I do landscape design work with permaculture concepts in it. If I were to put all of that into a checklist format for you, to make it super easy, because I might be a complicated girl, but ultimately my goal is ease. And I love simplifying complicated concepts. And what I want for you is ease, because teachers are busy and schools are challenging environments to begin with. And without ease, nothing moves forward. So if I were to put all of that into a kind of a checklist, it would be as follows. First step to designing a school garden is placement. Where should the garden be? It should be somewhere sunny. I'm sure you agree with that. And I mean sunny. 6 to 8 hours of sunlight is what I mean. It should be super close to water tap, and I mean as close as possible. It should not be hidden. It should be in front of the community's eyes, and I mean as visible as possible. Access to it should not be restricted. No locked fences, please. Now, up until this point, you probably have quickly agreed with everything that I said. I mean, who would argue with sunlight and water, right? But as soon as I say don't fence it up, you started arguing with me in your head. I honestly don't have enough time here to go over all the reasons behind everything in this checklist here. I'm going to have to ask you to trust me. And remember that what I'm telling you comes from extensive experience in this field. I've seen all kinds of communities, from those who steal the plants, dig them up and leave with them, to those that, hit and break garden planters with rage, to those who, take all the food with no considerations for anyone else. You name it, I've seen it. And fencing and locking the garden don't solve any of those issues and sometimes exacerbate them too. Let your community have access to the garden easily. And the last part of the concept of placement is your garden needs to be somewhere that's also easy to access for you and your students. So no community gardens that are 3 streets or 3 blocks away or 2 blocks away or even 1 block away. The garden has to be placed in the school grounds. So number 1, place your garden somewhere sunny, close to water, visible, and easily accessible by your students and your community. Number 2 is all about plants. It's super important to have a plan for what you will plant in your garden and where. Grow seeds that are easy to grow and need not much attention during summer. I have a list of, my recommended seeds for school gardens that I will link in the show notes. Don't ever skip a plan for the plants. The worst thing you could do is to accept plants and seed donations from the community and plant whatever you get. Not every plant is proper for a school garden, and you should be careful about that. And one very important aspect of this plan has to be biodiversity. You want a combination of edible flowers, herbs, leafy greens, and fruiting plants. Never ever just plant a bunch of tomatoes and leave. Biodiversity is the backbone of your garden. Also, and equally important, is plant placement in your garden. Plant varieties in guilds or in companionships. If you have a tomato plant, you need a basil and a marigold nearby before you plant another fruiting plant like eggplant, for example. Make sure that you companion plant. Don't create rows and rows of segregated and separated plants. Number 3, design and build your garden for water conservation. It's simply not enough to set up a hose, put together a volunteer group, and leave for summer. Your garden has to be capable to hold on to and store as much water as it possibly can, so that if it got super dry and hot and your volunteers forgot and decided to skip, or life got in their way, because we're all human and we have lives, and didn't show up for 3 days to water, your garden doesn't dry up and die. Some permaculture techniques for that are hugelkultur, that's Hugelkultur, and I have, podcast episodes about this specifically. It's an amazing technique that I really love. Sub-irrigation, Oja pots, self-watering planters, covering the soil with mulch, or even better, living mulch, meaning plants, etc. Go look those up. And better is to join the school gardens with almost no summer maintenance class for all the details and all the water conserving techniques. Link is in the show notes as usual. And lastly, make sure your hose is also set up. Oh, by the way, no watering cans, please. Set up a good hose, okay? And make sure that hose is set up in a way that makes it secure, but at the same time, super easy for your volunteers to access and work with. I have a guide on that, and I will link it in the show notes. And that would conclude this high-level list. There's a lot more where all of this came from. Check out the links in the show notes for more, and I will talk to you next week in another episode. You've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And please share this episode with other teachers who might be interested in this topic. See you next week for a new episode.